So before the video starts, I just want to let you know that there's going to be a lot of rambling. Hello everybody, in today's video I want to talk about what I think of every single rival. And when I say that, I'm not actually going to cover like literally every single rival. If there's a rival that I don't particularly have any strong feelings of, I'm not really going to mention them, but either way, let's just get started. Number 1, Blue. This is already a rival that I don't have strong feelings on, and you're probably very shocked by that, but that's just simply because I never played Generation 1 or Generation 3, basically any Kanto games with Blue. Yeah, I'm a Pokemon fan, but you may not believe me on that one. But yeah, I don't really have any strong feelings on Blue. I do like Gary, his anime counterpart. So yeah, Trace, I like him. He doesn't really stand out. Trace is Trace. Brendan or May. I only know May. So I really like May as a rival. They don't really particularly do anything, but at the beginning of the game, they're entertaining, and at the end, middle, they're not really important. Don't worry, I'm gonna have more to say on the rivals as time goes on. Actually, we're already there. Wally! I actually have a lot to say on this guy. I mean, maybe not a ton, but still, I love him as a rival. Very entertaining character. He didn't really get much screen time in the in-between parts of the game, middle part of the game, but by the beginning, he's interesting, and by the end, very interesting. Especially in Auras, or Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, where he starts off as a sweet little feeble kid, and then in the end has a beautiful battle background, amazing music, a mega evolution of such a cool Pokemon, and I really just love his character as a whole, and I would love to see him in more Pokemon media, though he doesn't really get that anymore, which is a shame, but I do really enjoy his character. Barry. Okay, Barry. So he definitely has an interesting story. It just, for some reason, it never made any, I guess, impact on me, and that's probably because the context for his story was really only saved for the ending, but basically it never got fleshed out. So at first he's a pretty entertaining, he thuds into you every 2 seconds and is just yelling and running, and I enjoyed that part of his character quite a bit. It's pretty nostalgic, that part, but he's extremely boring in the middle half of the game, and then by the end, where he has the whole thing where he loses and has a comeback, we don't really understand the comeback. Wally, I feel like it makes sense because you sort of want him to have a comeback by the beginning of the game, but for Barry, there's no time to even process that he had a failure and then he's already having a comeback. And we're gonna get to a character much later on who has a similar story to him, and I think it was done much better for him. But either way, moving on for Cheren. Cheren I love. He's probably one of my favorite rivals. Generation 5 has always been basically one of my favorite generations, and now it's probably my favorite. And Cheren, I just love Cheren. Okay, so first, Cheren, in the first games, yeah, okay, he's pretty boring, but I don't know, he just has this like essence to him that just makes him interesting, that you want to learn more about him. And then I guess I especially like him mostly because of his time skip in Black and White 2, where he becomes a gym leader, and I think it's such a funny story for him, and I really enjoyed. Another reason why I really like Cheren is actually because of the Pokemon manga. He's quite a bit more important there and has a lot more connection to the main character, and I really love his story arc, especially there. And then seeing him become a gym leader, Black and White 2's game, it's also good, so I really enjoy his entire story and this character. Bianca, also really great character. They're pretty jumpy, but their story is actually really nice, how they want to go on an adventure, but they don't really have the skills necessary to do that, but they still want to just enjoy and have fun, and I think it's a really great character arc. I especially like how, again, in the time skip, Black and White 2, the sequel, she becomes a professor's assistant or something. Either way, really enjoy her character too. And do I even have to say anything about him? I feel like, is there anything new I can say on him? I mean, even if it's nothing new, I think things are important to be said. His character is almost mesmerizing, and I'm not sure why. It's uncomfortable. Like, I don't know if I'm meant to like him or dislike him, and I think that's what makes his character so intriguing. Hugh, that's actually what my channel's named off of. That's not my name, by the way. It was sort of a pun on Hugh and color Hugh, and I mean, that's what his name is a pun on, but since artist Hugh, you get it. I really love his character, especially, okay, so it's the manga of Pokemon Black and White are it's basically the same story, but since it focuses on the story, I find it a lot more entertaining and easier to consume. So I'm mostly going to be talking from the manga's perspective, and it's basically the same story, but basically in the manga, he gifts his little sister this Purloin, and that gets stolen from them after he tries forcing her to battle with him at a battlefield and ends up getting captured. The Purloin being the very first so-called liberated Pokemon, and I really just enjoy his character, and I really like that he's not particularly mean, he's just very passionate and hot-headed. For some reason, I always thought of his hair as red, but I always have such whiplash when I see his hair. It's like this bluish, purplish, bluish, I guess. And also his battle music is really good. Caleb and Serena. For me, I only know Serena. But I actually, since X and Y was my first ever Pokemon game, you know, I have this bias towards it. And so I find Serena to be a very compelling character and very entertaining, mostly because out of everyone else, she was the only one who wanted to actually get stronger in battle. And for me, I really love the rival quartet, which I'll again soon get to, but yeah, I found their character very entertaining, and it's probably the one, I guess, since it was my first ever Pokemon game, they were definitely the most realistic character for me. Shauna, Tierno, and Trevor, I'm sort of just gonna put into the same group. They all have their own distinct goals, and I liked interacting with them throughout the game. I like that each and every one of them gets their own time in the spotlight, especially their anime counterparts, I really love, and they sort of have a similar role where they sort of just appear throughout, each with their own story, and they're all really entertaining characters on their own right. I do agree they did not get enough spotlight, but either way, I really enjoy what they had to offer, and it made the adventure in Kalos for me feel like I'm truly going along with a bunch of friends. And this helps clarify because I'm sort of just rambling here, but that helps clarify for me for what I feel about Serena, like mixing between Japanese and okay. But basically, the reason why I like Serena is because her character and my character, we're the only ones who care about battling. So in contrast to the rest who don't really battle, who are basically, it's a friend group, but we're the only two ones who battle, so it felt like a true rivalry. That's why I liked her character. Okay, Hau. Don't really have any strong feelings on him. Anime, whatever. I like him. Like, I don't dislike him. I like him. It just, he doesn't really stand out to me as an entertaining character, I guess. Gladion, though, is one of my favorite, maybe, yeah, just perhaps my favorite. I don't know, I hate deciding favorites, but Gladion, his anime counterpart and his game counterpart, everything is also amazing. I don't even know what to say. Like, I love the whole punk yet a really good and sweet person. Yeah, it's one of my favorite tropes in media writing, so yeah. Hop. This is what I was saying. I feel like Hop is basically Barry's story, but done a lot better because Barry basically, like I hinted at earlier, his character arc wasn't really fully explored. It was only given context for in the post game because now we see why it was important to him that he lost, and then why he had to have that comeback at Spear Pillar and whatever, because he looks up to his father who's a frontier tycoon. And I think it's a great story and all, but I feel like Hop's is just a lot more influential since Leon, at the very beginning of the game, we know Leon is the undefeated champion, and Hop is his younger brother who wants to live up to those expectations as a younger brother and to be the first one to defeat Leon. And I feel like that's a lot better of a story than Barry, who's basically just trying to live up to his father's expectations, I guess, who we don't really know of and isn't really that important and isn't really the strongest in the region or anything. He's just sort of strong, and that's that. So I feel like Hop's story is just done a lot better. We also get to see his development because the way he cycles through his Pokemon throughout the game, the way he develops throughout everything, the way he interacts with Bead and everyone, it's all, I think it's really incredible, and it's always like he's trying to put up the smile even though he has a difficult time with it. And I like that in the end he found his true calling like Bianca did. Though there is a part of me that feels like that isn't his real true calling, but I don't know. Either way, Bead and Marnie. I'm sort of just gonna put them together. Don't really have much to say about them. They're entertaining. Nah, I don't really have any strong opinions on them. Clara and Avery. I only know Clara. Very entertaining character. Don't really appear much. I feel like she should have gotten a bit more time. Like maybe we could battle her after the DLC or something. I don't know. It seemed very cut off, but entertaining while it lasted. And finally, Scarlet and Violet's rivals. First off, we have Nimona, who's one of my favorite rivals, who just loves battling, and I feel like it's probably, like I said, I like Serena, but Nimona's probably Serena, but better. I don't really like doing that, this thing, but better, but it just sort of feel like a good way of describing it, but a hyperbolic way of describing things. So yeah, but you know, I like how they actually have a story in the beginning of the game. They're actually taking us through for like the first hour or so, 2 hours of the game, and I feel like that allows us to grow closer to them a lot easier. And they were basically the familiar face throughout the story, right? And so there was always this familiarity. Familiarity with them. So there is this familiarity with them, finally, and that they appear with each gym and always being like, they're basically a stalker, which that part is weird, but other than that, very entertaining character. And finally, and not really finally, Arvin and Penny. I'm gonna make them distinct, whatever. Either way, I guess we'll start off with Penny, and I'm sure you could guess why. So, Penny, entertaining, not really much to say. I don't know why I had to make it distinct. I should have just said that from the very beginning. Arvin, you should already know how I feel about Arvin. One of my favorite characters. I mean, I drew him, and that really endeared me. I mean, I drew all of them, all of the rivals before the games came out. But like for Arvin, I don't like. Just even before I knew what his story was about, I liked him. And then here we are, and he has this amazing story, and you're meant to hate him at first, but then he's really good, and then he's like the professor's whatever, and there's like this mystery about him at the very beginning, and it's like, it's such a well-made character arc, and like that could actually fit into a normal story where he has this intriguing mystery by the very beginning of the game. He's the professor's kid, and he's yelling at you to do this, and he sort of becomes a bit in the circle of Nimona, of Cassiopeia or Penny, and Nimona and Arvin and Abby and everyone, and then you go help him, and then you think that there's some mysterious Pokemon that he's hiding, and it's probably like some legendary Pokemon like Nebby or something, and then you find out it's a dog, and then he has his whole story, and you're trying to heal it, and yeah, I like him. My top three is probably basically like Gladion, Hugh, and Arvin, and then followed up by, I'm sort of just going of rambling whim, whatever, probably followed like characters like Nimona and Hop and Serena, then followed by characters like Tierno, Trevor, Clara, Hau, Barry, I forgot to mention the other Gen 5 characters. They're also up there. Yeah, there was a lot of rambling in this video. I'm sorry for that, but I haven't actually recorded a video in quite a while. So yeah.